Okay, here we have Sympodium ID350, and here are the tools that I would recommend to use for opening it up. There's a medium-sized crosshead screwdriver there, a flathead screwdriver which is just really used for levering, a small pair of pliers, or a bigger pair would do, and this is a very small screwdriver, or any sort of pointy thing to poke things would probably be okay. Okay, so the first thing to do is to remove the stand, if there is one. Now this one, I haven't reassembled it, it's already disassembled. I've just plonked the pieces in position to get the general idea. But there's 4 screws to take out from here. To get at these two, this part of the stand has to be put up, or preferably even a bit further. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 crosshead screws to take out. I'm doing this one-handed because I'm holding the camera with one hand. Once you've taken those screws out, the stand will just lift off, and it makes it possible to take the back off. Now, to take the back off, I think there's about 10 screws around the edge. They're all pretty obvious. I've taken off the feet things here, but you actually don't need to take those off. So there's about 10 crosshead screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once those have been taken out, the case will still be kind of clipped together, so I found a flathead screwdriver just to put in, ease in a crack, especially at the corners, and it should just snap open and this part can be removed. Just put that down. Now once we get inside, there's a metal cover here that needs to be removed, and there's, I think, 6 screws holding that. It's a good idea to keep all the screws together for each job so you know which ones are which, but they're not all the same screws. So 1, 2, and then on the other side of here 3, 4, and there's 2 actually, you probably can't see them, but where these kind of slots are, 5, 6. Once they're taken off, you may need to take off some little bits of masking tape that are sticking cables to the outside, so this should then just be able to be lifted out of the way. This is the circuit board here, the main one, the one that I have a problem with, and these cables are all plugged in. Now I've unplugged them already, but there's a whole number there. They're all different sizes, fortunately, so that later on you know which ones go where. There's these 2 with the sort of silvery leads. They're from the USB sockets, and I managed to get those out just by pulling them gently with the pliers. See those 2 sockets there and there. Then you've got a row of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little plugs in sockets. They're pretty similar types in each case. To get those out, the way I did it was to either use my fingernail to pull them, while at the same time using this little poking thing, because there's some, I don't think you see it on this camera, but on each of the plugs there's a couple of little tiny pegs, and they pop up into these holes on the socket. Try and get a bit of a close-up there. See, this socket has little locating holes where the pegs go. So I found the best way was to push down the little locating pegs with a poking thing like this little screwdriver, and then pull one side up a bit, and then push down on the other side, pull the other side up, and maneuver them out like that. So just one at a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, and then you get the cables loose here. Some of these cables are tied with cable ties. There's a cable tie here which I've left in place, but there was one down here which I cut because it was too awkward to do things with it in place. So when I reassemble, I'll put a new cable tie there, if I remember. Now, to remove this circuit board then, this is the one here. Fortunately it's the top one. There's two aspects to this. One here, the sockets where the VGA connectors go, they have little nuts on either side which screw through into the whatever they screw into. I think it's actually the casing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. One on each side of the two sockets needs to be undone, and for that I used just these little pliers to twist them, at least until they're loose enough to do with the fingers. Then to remove the circuit board, there's 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these screws are quite visible, so there's no sneaky ones hiding somewhere where you don't see. And once you've taken these nuts off and those 4 screws out, then this whole circuit board, if I can do it one-handed, just lifts out and back. Best to try and avoid touching the components, which I'm failing to do here, or use rubber gloves or something to avoid static. But this is the one that has the fault anyway, and the fault is here, seems to be where the 12 volt power goes in. This is slightly loose and doesn't seem to convey the current into the machine suitably. So there's a rubber thing on the bottom which is just a spacer. That grey thing there, if you can see it. That's just a spacer because when it goes over the back in, it goes over the top of this other circuit board, just to stop the two getting squeezed in contact, I suppose. As far as I know, this board is fine. So this part, of course, needs to be wrapped in some sort of plastic, preferably a sort of anti-static-ish one, and to have reasonably stiff casing because they can get thrown about in the post quite a bit. So that's it really.